y'all, this is Victoria, better known as Diamond V's Makeup. This is my beautiful model, Deasia, and I'll be showing you how I achieve my signature soft glam that's perfect for any and every occasion. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop straight into it. So boom. I'm starting off by cleaning up her face. You always want to start off by having a clean base when doing your makeup. This was going to help your makeup last and everything just kind of just mesh together. So right here, I'm just using a Neutrogena makeup wipe to help remove any type of dirt, oils, or any type of makeup. So after you've cleaned your face, you want to go ahead and go in with a good moisturizer. Today I'm using Bobbi Brown Enriched Face Moisturizer. That's my favorite. And to me, I feel like it's good for all skin types. For whether you have oily or dry, combination, normal skin. It's just a really good moisturizer. And to me, it really helps the makeup last so much longer. And yes, I'm using my bare hands. I rather use my hands because I feel like I could get it into the skin more versus then using like a sponge or a brush. I feel like you're just kind of just sliding it across your face. With your hands, you can really massage it into the skin. So take your time when doing this because you want to have a good base before you apply any kind of makeup. And also too, after you're done putting on the moisturizer, I'm going in with a primer. You always want to use some sort of a primer based off of your skin. If you have oily skin, you want to use a primer that's mattifying or has pore control. Or if you have dry to normal skin, you want to use anything that hydrates. So today she has pretty much normal skin. So I'm going in with the e.l.f. Grip Power. e.l.f. Grip Power primer. It's really good and it's affordable. And this right here is just the extra step that I'm doing. You know, some people to each his own. But this is a under the eye cream that I'm using. It's called Estee Lauder Eye Cream. It's a night cream. I just like it. Kind of gives a little bit more moisture under the eyes, especially when we're going to be putting makeup and powders under there. You don't want your eyes to crease. So it's just an extra step. You know, you can always use your moisturizer, go up under there, but I would just be an extra. So now we're going to go in with doing the eyebrows. So I'm using the L'Oreal Pro Definer Pencil in the shade dark brown. And right now I'm just going in. You always want to start off by kind of just brushing out your brows. And now I'm just taking the tip of the pencil and you're going to be doing very light strokes. Do not go in dark. Build up. It's better to go in lighter than to go into darker. It's easier to build up than it is to take down. So right now, I'm just basically following the shape of her brow. I love a natural looking brow. I like to follow their natural brow hairs. I'm not really big on creating this whole crazy new brow. So I'm literally just tracing out her eyebrow, just filling it in any spots that needs to be filled in using very light strokes. So you're going to be seeing me going between filling it in and just kind of using the spoolie at the end and just kind of blending it out. And at the tip of her eyebrow here, I'm just doing some strokes going straight up. Again, with a nice light hand. You don't want to go in too hard because you don't want too dark of an eyebrow. So you're going to see me pretty much just going back and forth between filling it in and brushing it out. Just trying to make sure I get a nice filled in brow and just really creating her shape. And I'm going to be doing the same exact thing on her other eyebrow. So right now at this point, I'm pretty much just kind of eyeballing each eyebrow, just trying to get it as nice and as the same as I can. Remember that eyebrows are sisters and not twins, so don't beat yourself up. As long as they're not crazy different, you're good to go. And don't worry about any messes, because what we're doing right now is that we're going in with a concealer. This is going to help clean up any kind of mess that we've made or try to straighten things up and get things more even. So I'm using, this is actually a paintbrush that I'm using. You can find these pretty much anywhere. I think I got this for maybe Family Dollar. It's just a round, flat brush. If you get yourself a good concealer brush, kudos to you. But I'm just using a regular plain paintbrush, and it's just real flat and round. So I'm going in with a darker concealer at first. I like to use a darker one, maybe about 1 or 2 shades darker than the skin tone, or about the same color as the same skin tone. And we're just basically tracing out your brows. You're creating your shape and cleaning up the mess. When you're doing this, go really slow and don't have a lot of product on your brush, because too much product is hard to blend out and then it gets a little messy. Sometimes it goes into the eyebrows. So you want to, put enough product on there to make the brush nice and flat, but don't have it where you can see like chunks of product on your brush. So I'm just doing really light strokes. And then for the end of your brow, you want to use a lighter color. So maybe about 1 or 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. And that's just going to be on the bridge of your brow. Doing the same thing again, just taking real small, short strokes. Take your time when doing this. And I'm bringing that concealer all the way down to the lid. That's going to act as my eyeshadow base as well. And it can help with some color correcting too as well. Again, I'm going in with the lighter concealer now. And I'm just really going up under that arch bone. Nice and slow. And just taking a little excess product and just bringing it down. You don't want too much product on your eyelid, because then it can cause creasing in your eyeshadows. You don't want that. And I'm using Born This Way Too Faced Concealer in the shade Spice Rum and Maple for this. So now you want to take a small dense buffing brush, or you can use a beauty blender, whichever one floats your boat, but I personally like to use a small buffing brush. Real Technique has really good brushes, and sometimes they come in kits, and they have a very good concealer buffing brush. So basically what I'm doing right here is I'm just kind of doing a tap sweep motion, and I'm really just pressing that product into the skin. I'm not trying to slide the concealer far away from the eye space. We kind of want to keep it controlled. So we're basically just doing a tap sweep motion. So tap, sweep, tap, sweep, tap, sweep. That's basically what I'm doing right now. And I'm just getting everything all nice and blended out. So basically what you see me doing right here is I'm not adding any extra product to the brush. I'm basically just tapping on the front ends of her eyebrows just to smooth things out and to basically soften the brow to give it that ombre effect. Sometimes you may give yourself a darker brow in the beginning, and that's okay, because you can always use your brush or your sponge and just lightly tap it just to kind of give it like that little light and fade and ombre effect that you want to achieve. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into the foundation. So I'm using that same concealer brush that we used earlier. I kind of just used a little paper towel to kind of take off any excess product. You always want to match your foundation to your jawline and your neck. So when shopping for foundations, just try to compare that too. Also too, they have all different kinds of foundations. They have some that's good for oily or normal or dry. You really got to do your research on what may work best for you. I use Maybelline Fit Me for the most part. I feel like it's very buildable, it is long lasting, and it's very affordable, and it has not led me wrong at all. So that's what I'm using today. I'm using Maybelline Fit Me in the shade 365. And I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm just putting it on her face. You're not putting all this crazy amount of foundation. You want to keep the face feeling light. Most of my clients, they don't like to have a heavy makeup look at all. They want to make it feel like they don't even have makeup on. So I'm just taking my brush and I'm just placing it all over her face. So now I'm taking a foundation buffing brush. This is another Real Technique brush that you can find again at either Walmart or Ulta, or you can find it on Amazon, whichever one floats your boat. I'm just taking this brush and I'm really just pressing it into the skin. So I'm doing the same concept as I did with blending out the concealer under the eyes. I'm doing the tap sweep motion. So you really want to make sure you're pressing that into the skin. You want to take your time when blending out your foundation, because to me, that's the most important part of makeup, is the skin part. So you want to look as flawless as possible. So take your time when blending out foundation, making sure you have your right skin match and having the right tools. So make sure you're definitely taking your time blending out your foundations. It's so important. So now that your foundation is nice and blended out, we're going to go into the next step, which is applying concealer. Now, when choosing your concealer, you always want to try to go at least 1 to 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. This is going to help kind of define your face and bring some shape back to your face. Because a lot of times when you apply foundation, it kind of just, we naturally all have highlights in our face. If you ever kind of just look at yourself like in the mirror, like in the sunlight, like we have like these little natural highlights under our eyes and our chin, they kind of stand out more. So when you put foundation on top of it, it kind of just takes it all away. So the concealer is going to help replace that, bring that stuff back. So using the same brush that we used to carve out our eyebrows and to apply our foundation, we're going to use that to apply the concealer as well. Now, if you're, doing it on yourself, then you can go ahead and just use the little applicator that the concealer comes with. That's perfectly fine. But if you're working with clients, I suggest using a brush just to kind of help with some cleanliness. So I'm applying the concealer in these areas as you shown in the video. And when applying it, you don't want to use a lot, because with using concealer, most of the time, a little can go a long way. So you want to be light-handed because it'll be easier for it to blend, and you can always add more to add more coverage if you want to. So like I said earlier in the video, if you do a little, you can always add more. If you put too much, it's going to be hard to take away. Also, when I apply my concealer, a lot of times I use 2 different shades. So for like more of the inner corners of the eyes, I will use a brighter shade just to give it some extra brightness. And then on the outer edges of the concealer, I'll use a little darker just so it can help blend it into the foundation better. To me, it's just easier and I don't have to work so hard to blend everything together. So now it's time to start blending out this concealer. So when blending it out, you go back in with that same dense concealer brush that we used earlier, and we're just basically buffing out the edges right now. I like to start off with the edges first because it just gives it like a nice little seamless blend. towards the finished product. So you're just kind of working around the area first, and then you're going to go into the center of where you place that concealer at. So that basically gives you that little extra coverage that you need. And again, we're just doing that tap sweep motion. Also, when blending out your concealer, you kind of want to move quickly. Like, yes, take your time with blending, but at the same time, you want to move a little quickly because sometimes, depending on which concealer that you're using, it can dry down a little quick and then it gets harder to blend. So, but with this concealer that I'm using today, which is the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, it's pretty creamy, so it's not going to dry up on you real quick, but you still want to kind of move fast because concealer does dry, and then once the drier it gets, the harder it is to blend. So definitely you want to go straight into it depending on which concealer that you're using. And again, I'm taking the brush and I'm just sweeping it, tapping back and forth, blending out those edges first before I go straight in. So I'm just making sure that everything is nice and blended. You will see me go back and forth between using this brush and the foundation brush. I'm just using foundation brush just to blend out the edges. I'm not adding any product to the foundation brush at all right now. We're just simply using it as a tool to make sure that the barrier between the concealer and the foundation is nice and seamless. So you will see me going back and forth using these two brushes. So now that we have the edges pretty much blended out, we want to go ahead and look straight up. So either have your client looking straight up or you looking straight up. We're going to go in and start pressing in this product. So with this same thing we're going to be doing, we're going to be tapping, sweeping. You're going to be really pressing that into the skin. And the reason why you want to be looking straight up while doing this step is so that you have a nice smooth finish after you're done blending out. Because this particular part is very important because this was going to help avoid any of that creasing. So you want to make sure everything is nice and smooth before you start setting stuff with powders. So having your client or yourself looking straight up goes a long way. All right, so she is all blended out. As you see, she's already looking so cute already. So now it's time to set the same areas that we put the concealer at is where we're going to lay this powder at. So I'm using a damp beauty sponge. I've got these disposable ones. You can use a beauty blender, whichever one you have, as long as it's damp. And I'm pressing into my translucent powder, which I'm using the Fenty loose powder in the shade Honey. So when applying this product, you want to apply a little at a time. So I literally just put enough on my sponge just to cover it, and I tap off any extra dust. Make sure you tapping off, because if not, when you put it onto the face, it's gonna be a lot. So, and it's gonna take a little minute to blend that out. So I put like a nice thin layer on the skin. Again, a little goes a long way, and you can always build up to your own preference. So I'm applying this powder right in the same areas that we laid the concealer at. And in this process, again, you want to have your client or yourself looking straight up this whole entire time. This is going to make you or break you again. because if not, you're going to be creasing throughout the day. We want a nice smooth base. We don't want all that creasing. So yes, we're just gently pressing everything into the skin. And when I find by pressing into the skin as soon as you're trying to set, it helps it avoid any flashback. Like it literally melts into the skin. And child, you see her feeling herself already, child. She ain't even done yet, girl. Anyhow, so once you got that loose powder set in, I'm taking a small brush, a nice little fluffy small brush, and I'm pressing in a pressed powder. So today I'm using a Black Radiance in the shade Golden Cashew. It's a pressed powder, and I'm using it, and I'm going right on top of that loose powder that we just applied. So this helps with that flashback. Like, you don't want to be in these folks' cameras and pictures and all that, and you look like you casket sharp and you ready to go 6 feet under. We not going for that. You is not no clown, and you're not putting on no performance, baby, at all. No, ma'am, not doing that. So this right here is going to help prevent all of that. You're going to use a shade that's about your concealer shade. So pretty much, try to match up with your concealer shade in a sense like that. And right now, I'm just going back in, just blending out the eyelids a little bit more. And I'm going to go in with that same pressed powder and press it right into the skin. This is going to help any type of creasing. You don't want that with your eyeshadow. You want it nice and smooth. At this point, my camera was hating on me and I had to go ahead and switch over to the iPhone, but it's okay because we did not miss any steps and we hopping straight back into it. So the next step with completing our face is we're going into bronzing our skin. So basically what bronzing is just bringing back out the natural shadows that we have in our face and bringing back some warmth to our face. Because a lot of times when we're putting on this foundation and concealer, we tend to lose the definition of our face. So this kind of just helps bring it all back together. So I'm using that same foundation brush and I'm using that to apply the bronzer. I'm using the Morphe AD palette. Normally you can only order those off of Ulta.com. They don't sell them in the stores, but you can use pretty much any bronzing palette or bronzer that you have, as long as it's at least 1 to 2 shades darker than your skin tone. So you're going to see me using my same foundation brush that we used earlier, tapping into the product, and we're going to be putting it around our chin areas, as you can see. And then we're going to be placing it on our sides of our cheekbones and around our forehead. You're going to be seeing me going back and forth between adding a little bit of product at a time, and then using that damp sponge and just blending out the edges. You want everything to be blended. Like, I'm a blending queen. I like to blend everything that I do. I don't care what step of the makeup it is, we're blending. Take your time. Oh, and what I forgot to mention is, please, ladies, listen. If y'all have a lady that's wearing a wig, please be careful of the lace and the baby edges. Like, work around that. Please do not put no product on these folks' hair, okay? They don't pay too much money to get their hair done. And trying to get makeup off of there is not easy. Because then now you're trying to use a wipe. And you're trying to wipe it off. Now you done messed up their little swoops. And half time, 90% of people don't know how to fix them swoops like me. So please work around it. I see some people using tape. I don't even have to do all that. Just stay away. That's it. If you need to get a little closer to the baby hairs or to the lace, use their sponge and kind of blend a little closer to it. But don't be just slapping no product on these people's hair. Okay? All right. Okay, so boom. Now we're going to go into snatching up the nose. So I'm taking a small little buffing brush. I believe I ordered this off of Amazon. Like, I promise you, y'all, when it comes to brushes, I'm not no particular person. I order stuff from any and everywhere. Or if I go to the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and I see a brush that I can use, I grab it. Okay, as long as it ain't sharp and stabbing me when I put it on my face, we good to go. I'm not going to spend all no money on no brushes. I just can't. But anyhow, I'm going back in with the same. You just take your same bronzer that you're using and you're tapping it onto the brush, and you're working in the inner corners of the eyes and down the bridge of your nose. You want it to come as close up as you can to the nose to get that nice good snatch. And you just really taking your time, just building up that product so you can get that nice little shape that you're looking for. Oh, she is looking so cute already. Again, I'm going back and forth between using the brush and the sponge to blend out all the edges. So now we're moving on to blush. I'm using a nice clean fluffy brush and I'm applying the blush right to her apples of her cheeks. And then I'm basically just kind of following where I laid that bronzer at, but keeping up closer to like the end of her eyebrows. So you're kind of carrying it up, as you can see. Like I'm pushing it up, not really out towards the ear, but up going towards like the end of her eyebrows. And you'll see me going back and forth between adding some blush and then blending it out with the sponge. The sponge is going to be your best friend. I call that like my little magic eraser. It just basically removes anything that I don't want to be there. So if you see like a line or, you know, you're not like how things are looking or meshing together, use that and it just kind of just push everything away. Just takes everything away. I like it. And when choosing the color of blush, it's pretty much to your own preference. I go based off of skin type. So for her, I'm using more of like a deeper coral color. And so, but typically for like medium to deep, I would use like a peach to deep coral, or for a deeper skin tone, I would use more like a darker red or like a burgundy purple color. Or for like a fair to light, I would use like a light peach or a pink color. So it basically just depends on your own preference. You know, some people don't even like blush, but I love blush. It just does something to the face. Like, I don't know, I can't even tell you. So now I'm going in with just setting the face. I'm using Mario Badescu facial mist. I believe that's a cucumber spray I'm using. And this is just a facial mist. It's like a moisturizer. It just kind of helps bring back some moisture to the face, because when using powders, things tend to get a little dry. So we want to make things looking skin-like. So this helps basically melt everything into place and bring moisture back to the skin. So once I spray it, I kind of go over with my little fan, and then I take that same sponge and I'm just pressing it into the skin. So now we're going to go in with highlight. So I'm taking a small little blending brush and I'm just adding the highlight to the higher points of your cheekbone. And like I've been doing throughout this whole video, that sponge is your best friend, and you're just doing that to blend out the edges. I told you everything that I do, I blend out everything. So even with highlight, you pressing onto what areas you want, taking that sponge and blending it out. And for the tip of her nose, I'm going in with a smaller flat brush. It's, to me, I call it like an inner corner brush. It's very small and rounded at the end. And I'm using that just to kind of create a line on top of her nose to snatch that nose up. And the highlight that I'm using is by Milani in the shade Champagne. And I'm taking that same brush that we used to carve out her nose earlier, and I'm using that just to kind of help, you know, build up that shape some more and help blend out those edges from that highlighting that we're putting on her nose. So now that we're pretty much done with the face, we're going to go ahead and get into the eyes. So today I'm going to be using the Nude Persuasion palette by Beauty by Melissa. This is the perfect palette to have in your kit. If you don't have it already, you can find her on Instagram. It is awesome. I promise you. It has every shade for each skin tone, I'm telling you. But anyhow, so I'm going ahead. I'm taking a small buffing brush, eyeshadow brush, and I'm doing a tap sweep motion. Make sure before you're going into using your eyeshadow that you're tapping off any excess, because you don't want that fallout to get all over your face that you just worked so hard on. So make sure you like tapping it off, like either onto the eyeshadow, off your hand. Hell, you could blow it, whatever you want to do, that's you, okay? And you want to go ahead and you want to press it into your eyes. When applying your eyeshadow, you want to start off with a lighter color to start, you know, getting that blending process going. And then I work my way into a darker color. So I'm using only shades of brown. So right now I'm basically starting off with a lighter shade of brown. And then now I'm going to go in with a darker shade of brown. So basically you're going to be choosing a color that's closer to their skin tone. And then you're going to work your way down to something a little bit deeper. That way you're able to still see it on the lid. So at this point, you're going to just see me working on building up this color on her eyelids to my liking. I'm going back and forth between each eye. I'm going in with that deeper color to help trying to get that pigment on there. And again, I'm tapping off any excess. Before you go onto that eyelid, make sure you're tapping off any excess fallout because you do not want it on your face. You just pressing that into the skin, and you're going to be seeing me doing tapping, sweeping, and circular motions, just really getting everything nice and blended. Again, take your time. There is no rush. If you're taking appointments, have enough time where tell them like, hey, you need to book earlier so that we're not rushing. Ain't no rushing. And if you're doing on yourself, give yourself some extra time so that you're able to do these extra steps that you need to have a flawless ending. So now we're going to go in and get back into the inner corner of the eye. I love this part of doing eyeshadow. It just kind of does something to it. Like, I don't know. It gives it that little extra pop that you need. So I'm just taking that white color from that palette and using that same brush that we used to apply the highlight on the tip of her nose. And we're just popping that right into her inner corner of her eye. And I'm just using a nice white. I feel like it just stands out and it just kind of brightens up the eyes a little bit. If you're doing this on a client, make sure you ask to see if they want this on their eyeshadow. I typically get a lot of older clients and they don't like this. They feel like it looks like coal in their eyes. I don't know. Some people don't like that. So make sure that you ask just to be sure. But if you like it on yourself, girl, do you. And at this point, you're going to see me going back and forth using that smaller brush just to kind of blend out those edges, just so that, you don't just go from boom to white to boom brown, just kind of want to blend those out. Okay, so now we're going to get into a wing eyeliner. Now, I ain't going to lie, this step is very tedious. This is one of the things that you're just going to have to keep practicing over and over again. Like, I've watched a million videos learning how to do this, and it took me a million times to get it right. So don't think that you're just going to have it right by the first time. If you do, kudos to you, girl, for real. Like, that's what's up. But a lot of us, it took us a minute. I ain't going to lie. So what I like to use is I'm using this Mega Liner eyeliner from Wet n Wild. I love it. It's cheap, it's matte, and it's long lasting, and it just glides right on. So I typically start from the inner corner of the eye. I always tell my clients, if they're doing this on themselves, to keep the liner as close down to your lash line as possible. You can always build your way working up. It's hard to go so up thick because then it's too late for you. You have to wipe your whole eye off, or you're going to have this thick line going across your eyes. So start real thin. Real thin. So again, we're going to start in the inner corner of the eye, staying real close to that lash line as much as possible. You can come up a little bit because you do want to see it when you open up your eyes, but just be very careful when doing this step. Just take your time. Please take your time. And you're just dragging that line all the way across. As you can see, I'm filling it in as I go. Kind of looking at it, eyeballing it. I'm looking at the other eye, looking at this eye. And then I'm starting at the bottom lash line corner and I'm working my way up towards that eyebrow. The end of the eyebrow, I should say. You're basically making like a side triangle, if that makes sense. Yes. And connecting everything together. So right now, I'm just kind of just eyeballing it back and forth, seeing where I need to fill things in, straighten things up. Take your time when doing this. If you're not a wing liner person, that's okay. You could totally skip this step. You could just create your line going straight across your lid and stopping it right there. You don't have to create a wing. It's fine. This is just one of them things that you just have to practice all the time. So now we're going to get ready to apply the lashes. The technique that I use is called the Velcro technique. So basically what you do is you take your favorite lash glue. I'm using the Duo Lash Glue. It dries up clear. I'm just taking the applicator and I'm applying a very thin layer right above her lash line. This is going to kind of help create it to kind of give it like that Velcro sticky effect, so that when you put your glue on your lashes after you trim them up to your eye shape, once you put the glue on there and it dries down a little bit, you can stamp it right on there. It's so much easier to do it this way than trying to put the lash glue on the lash and then put it on your eye. Sometimes they be slipping around and everything like that. This right here, it literally just makes it stick like glue. I find it easier to have my clients have their eyes closed when I'm applying lashes, or if I'm applying lashes on either myself or you trying to do it on yourself, is I would use a mirror and just kind of like have it down towards your chest and you're looking down into the mirror while you're applying your lash. To me, it's so much easier because that way you can see up to your lash versus looking straight at your lash, if that makes sense. And at this point, you're just going to see me going in with my fan just to kind of dry down her lashes, make sure it's nice and secure. And then you're going to see me going back and forth between my fan and a pair of tweezers just to kind of, push them together, make sure that they're on there good, and make sure they're not irritating her eyes when she's blinking or anything like that. So here I'm just using a black eyeliner. I believe this is Black Radiance in the shade Black. And I'm just going straight into her waterline just to kind of fill everything out. Adding basically my final touches to the face because we are almost done. And then we're going to go in with a brown eyeshadow from that same palette that we used earlier in the video. And we're just going to tap it right up under her eye. It's going to just kind of bring a little bit of warmth up under her eye and just make it pop. And at this point, you just want to take your time with just blending everything out. You can build up how much you want that brown to pop up under the color. You can use a darker brown to kind of give it more of a smoky look. Or you can use any color choice, honestly. Like usually when I do a Signature Soft Glam like this, if they want like a pop of color, I could put that pop of color right up under here. It just gives it that nice little, little razzle dazzle that you might be looking for in your look. But in this case, we're doing something very soft and natural for our everyday look. So now we're getting towards the end. I'm applying the mascara. I'm just basically blending in her natural lashes with the strip lashes. And then you're going to see me apply it to her bottom lash line as well. So you want to make sure when you're applying mascara to make sure you're kind of using, a nice stern hand, because you do want to apply some pressure to get that blend. But at the same time, you want to kind of be able to kind of control it because you don't want any clumping with mascara. So basically just kind of, again, just take your time with this. And this brand of mascara that I'm using is called Essence. And I believe it's called Lash Princess in the shade Black. And I like it because it's affordable for one, because I don't like spending too much money on mascara because I go through it so much. So I believe it's like $4.99 and you can't beat it. So now I'm lining her lips. I'm using LA Girl Pro in the shade Dark Brown. And basically, you just want to use a color that's just at least 1 to 2 shades darker than your skin tone, just to kind of help, bring some contour to the lips. So I'm just going in with a light hand and just basically just lining her lips. Some people like to overline. I do a little bit, just kind of give it like that little, that little oomph. The girls that get it, get it. The girls that don't, just don't. And that's okay. But anyways, so I'm just basically lining her lips right now, and we're going to get ready to go into applying the lipstick. So I'm using the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink in the shade Poet. I love it. It's very creamy, it dries matte, and it's easy to blend. So I'm just popping that right in the middle of her lips. And trust me, we're not going to leave it like this. We're going to start blending everything out. But right now, I'm just putting down the base. So basically what I do is I just take another lipstick applicator, or you can use your finger, you can use a brush, or you could just like pat your lips together just to kind of get this blend. But personally, I like to use another extra applicator just to kind of blend out those edges. And at this point, you're just going to go back and forth between either adding more product and blending to get that look that you want before we go on top and add a clear gloss. And I believe the gloss that I'm using is just a basic gloss from a hair store. I think it's like by Broadway. You don't have to be all fancy if you don't want to. You go through gloss a lot. Listen, you just need a little pop. That's it. Ooh, child. Y'all see her looking cute already, child. Don't play with it. So now we are basically at our ending point. I'm doing my final touches. I'm just taking my eyebrow pencil and I'm doing some light strokes going straight up, just following her natural strokes of her brows, just to kind of just fill it back in. Sometimes we tend to lose a little bit of brow when we're, working with other products and, doing some extra blending. So I'm just kind of adding those little final details just to give her that extra snatch look. But honey, the look is given, as y'all can see. And basically at this point, you're just looking at your whole face, just kind of looking at where you might want to add a little something at. I tend to look at either the eyebrows, or I'm looking at the inner corners if I want to add a little more extra pop to the inner corner. But so far, I'm loving this look, so we're going to stick with it. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to set the face. I'm using Morphe, the continuous spray. I love it. It sits so pretty on all skin types. And I just go in with the fan and I go back in with that sponge because I kind of like to press it in. To me, it helps the makeup last longer and it helps melt everything into the skin. So this basically just melts all the makeup, just bring it all to one. And that second spray that I use is Maybelline Lasting Fix. And it just gives it like a nice matte finish, and it makes the makeup last even longer. So it's just one of my little final touches that I like to do, you know, to make sure that, you know, you're able to wear this makeup all day long. All right, so boom, this was the before video. You see she's already giving, okay. And then boom, this one, that Diamond V Center Soft Glam come on through, honey. Just gives it that little extra girl. Shit, she already had it, baby. I just enhanced it. So yes, this is the final look, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting me in this, in my very first video. I am going to put the description of everything that I use in this video at the end of this, so that you'll have that for your notes. And I appreciate everyone that took their time to watch this video, and more will be coming soon. Thank you.